Hello, hello, hello. It is good to be 4-0. What's going on? It's Michael Yo. Thank you so much for watching Comics on Canes. I love being your 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. Listen, because you got to listen to my dude, Alex Donno, first. He's a legend in the game. I'm going to bring him in right now. Alex Donno, what's up, my brother?
Hey, Michael, I'm so glad to be here. It was great doing the show with you in person a few weeks ago with Gio at the Improv. And man, like you, I'm happy to be 4-0, and I'm glad we get to relax a little bit this week, and we get to watch Florida State on Friday night before we face them the following week.
Now, I hear that Florida, Florida State and, of course, Miami, they talk a lot of trash. Florida was very quiet this week because they're going through a lot of things. I get that going into the game with Miami. But do you feel like Florida State and the media, because to me, they're not a top 10 team, but do you think they beat Alabama? I think they beat more the name of Alabama, and I will stick to I think Alabama's going to lose. In the next 4 games, they'll lose 2 more. They'll be 3 and whatever that record is. So I think they beat the name, but not a great team. Do you think the media hype has Florida State 7, or do you think they deserve that?
All right, so I'll start with this, and long and the short of it, and I'll get there, is a little bit of both. But here's the thing, like the media hypes up Alabama so much, and they will continue to do so unless the Kalen DeBoer thing completely goes off the rails. Like they're still living off the Nick Saban, reputation, and they're still the SEC, which the media hypes up so much. So it's like, if you beat that team that they hype up so much, then there has to be the transference of energy, right? Like energy doesn't die. It transfers into something else. So the media is forced to, if you're going to hype up Alabama as much as they do, and then Florida State, they dominated them. So they had to do something with that Alabama hype. But at the same time, I'll say this about Florida State. You can only play who's on the schedule. And, they obviously, they smacked Bama in the mouth week 1. That's really what it was. They completely out-physicaled them, and Bama didn't look ready. But credit to Florida State, they were more than ready for that game. Like, since then, you can only play who's on the schedule. And I feel like Mike Norvell has gone out of his way to make a statement and like, okay, we're not just going to beat East Texas A&M. We're going to put up 77 points and like show America that we're back. Kent State, same thing, 66 points they put up, and they scored 8 rushing touchdowns against Kent State. So all this to say, I do think Florida State looks to me like a good football team. And it's, one of the most dramatic improvements because you watched them last year, Mike, as I did, 2-10. They weren't just bad. Like, they looked completely lifeless. After those first 2 games, it was Georgia Tech and Boston College. It seemed like that team just completely quit, and they were just, collecting their NIL paychecks the rest of the way. So I do think Florida State is good, but I don't know how good they are until at least this Virginia game on Friday. This is going to be the best barometer they've had, obviously, since Alabama. And because they played a couple cadavers the last couple of weeks. So the Virginia game is going to be a barometer just based on what I've seen so far. And listen, like Virginia, Chandler Morris is playing really well. The Cavaliers are better than I thought they were. But I am expecting Florida State to win that game on the road on Friday night. I think the question is, how dominant will they look? And is Virginia going to expose any sort of weaknesses and wrinkles in FSU? So I think this is going to be a good test for them on Friday for Miami fans and people who cover Miami like you and me to really find out what Florida State is made of.
And that's what I'm excited to see, because I know Florida State is better, but I don't think they're much better. I just think they haven't really played anybody. And look, they beat Alabama, great. But like I said, I think Alabama will be, in the next 4 weeks, a 3-5 team. Like, so I'm not worried about that. It's more of, the problem I have with Miami when the schedule first came out, and I've said this on my podcast plenty of times, but when you're saying Syracuse is going to be a tough game, Pitt's going to be a tough game, then Miami's not where it needs to be. Because if that was Ohio State playing Syracuse or Ohio State playing Pitt, it wouldn't even be a bleep on their radar. It'd be just considered a win. So right. Miami now, I feel, is now getting to the point where people are looking at the ACC, and yes, I know the Florida game. We're going to talk about that. When it was 13-7, we all had flashbacks over the last 24 years. We're like, oh, here it comes. Here it comes. But I feel this team is built different, and that's not going to happen this year because it takes time for Mario to build what he built. And I felt that now is the time where you're not going to see – you may see a lapse in the team playing for one drive, and that's all Florida really had was one drive. But you're not going to see it the whole game. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you. When it got to be when it was 13-7, which was it was like the most frustrating, like however long it was in real time, like 5 or 6 minutes worth of football, to go from thinking Marty Brown just scored a touchdown to blow the game open, would have been 20-0 at that point. The officials, and by the way, they told Mario Cristobal after the game they screwed up. Like at least as bad of a screw up as it was, at least the SEC officials admitted it. The ACC officials would have just run off to some closet somewhere and had no accountability whatsoever. And then right after that touchdown was taken off the board, that's when Florida put together their only decent drive of the game and scored a touchdown. And then right after that, Carson Beck throws the interception, which gives Florida the football around midfield. So it was like, I was with you. I was sweating. Everything was tightening up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is this going to be like? Forget about the last 24 years. Last year, when Miami was in those situations, it did not go well. But I'll tell you, Mike, when you talk about this being a different Hurricanes team, I think they, especially for the guys who are back from last year. Obviously, there's a lot of new transfers, but I really think that they learned from last year, and it's why I heard Francis Mauigoa after the game talking about, hey, there's this narrative on Miami that we choke and we don't finish games. Akeem Mesidor had that enough T-shirt that he was wearing before the season saying the same thing. I love the way the Hurricanes responded, including Carson Beck, because on Miami's next drive after the interception, they went 13 plays, 80 yards. Most of that was the physicality and the running game up front, but Beck went 3 for 3 on that drive as well. So he also recovered from throwing the interception. And so, Mike, it's not only an attitude thing, Michael. I think it's also just the way that this team is physically built, how they're different, because they can absolutely lean on their physicality up front on both sides of the football to close these games out. The offensive line was very good last year. They're even better this year. Miami has, it's weird to say this, but the running game might even be better than it was last year. Marty Brown is doing an incredible job. Mark Fletcher, I think, is a better player than he was a year ago. We haven't really even seen Jordan Lyle yet. Yeah. So if ever that, double secret, injury probation, that's the Animal House reference, double secret probation. If, I'm assuming we're going to see him again, Florida State, and moving forward. But I'm thinking, and this is something Nick Saban said before and after the game, defenses and running games, those things travel. And I'm hoping that they travel in a big way to Tallahassee next week.
100%, 100%. Now, Marty Brown, correct me if I'm wrong, he's a sophomore, right?
Yeah.
We got him for 2 more years.
Freshman last year at North Dakota State. So he's young. He's got time.
And I said at the beginning of the year, I thought Marty Brown, I tell you, this year, I'm going to pat myself on the back. I've been correct on a lot of predictions. I said Marty Brown, to me, was going to be the standout. I said LSU, when they played the beginning of the year, LSU played Clemson, I thought both of them were mid-teams. And I really think, and that I think fraud alert is LSU. To me, fraud alert is LSU and FSU. And we'll see. We'll see. But I want to get your take on Carson Beck so far this year. How do you grade him? From an A to a F, how would you grade Carson Beck?
I'd probably go a B minus, because you have to deduct some points after the Florida game. Things just looked out of sync, and a lot of that's what Florida does, Michael. And I probably didn't give their defensive backfield even quite enough credit before that game. They with their coverages, the way they mixed it up, I thought that maybe it got in Beck's head just a little bit in terms of throwing downfield. I think his footwork was a little bit off. I think it's also worth pointing out there was a lot of rain and a wet ball throughout the game. And it's not like the quarterback on the other side did anything. I mean, DJ Lagway was a complete non-factor in that game. So Beck still, I think, won the quarterback matchup despite throwing an interception. But, obviously you downgrade his grade a little bit because of that. But overall, things that I've liked that he's done, including in the Florida game, the way he processes games and the way he takes the check downs, I think is something that we didn't even really have that last year with Cam Ward for the amazing season that he had, because honestly, the biggest plays that Miami made in the passing game on Saturday were, the throw to Marty Brown that he turned into a big game out in the flats, a couple of first downs to Elijah Lofton, who so happy to see him finally get involved in the passing game. That's a guy you need in a game like that. So I do give Beck credit when the downfield stuff wasn't really working for him, that he was able to take what the defense gave to him. And I think that's what he has excelled at so far, even in his previous games where he was, lights out against USF, Bethune-Cookman, and really good against Notre Dame. Not only was he hitting some big throws, but he was also taking the little stuff, which I think is key. I think his intelligence and his experience have really paid off for Miami. And I think he's a really good fit for how Mario Cristobal wants this year's offense to run, and Shannon Dawson, same thing, because they have a lot of balance, Michael. And I think it's because of the way that Carson Beck plays allows them to lean more on their running game, which I'm a fan of it. I've been a fan my entire life of smash mouth football, and I've even gotten frustrated over the years when, all of college football has kind of turned into like Big 12 or like old school Pac-12, where it's like, oh, we're going to chuck it to 450 yards passing every single game, and the scores are going to be in the 40s and 50s, and nobody's going to be stopping anybody. Like, there's nothing I enjoy more than seeing a big physical offensive line and a couple of battering rams at running back kind of take the soul of the opposing defense. And by the time you get to the fourth quarter, the defense has nothing left. Like, I've always enjoyed when football games look like that. And I think I speak for Mario Cristobal on that. So I think Carson Beck's style at quarterback allows Miami to play that way.
I think it was in Mortal Kombat. They have a character that takes the soul out of somebody.
Yeah.
I forgot which. If you're in the comments right now, because this is live, leave it in it. But there is a character that actually takes the soul out of somebody. And that's what Miami did to Florida. I mean, it was so great watching. It reminds me not like what Oregon did to Ohio State when Mario was there, when they went to Ohio State and just ran the ball down Ohio State's throat, and they couldn't stop it on their home field.
Yeah, it's really, and I think that's what they're going to try to do to Florida State as well, and everybody on their schedule, and that's what Florida State's going to try to do to Miami. Like, I've seen, they based on who they've played so far. Again, it looks like they've transformed their physicality on the offensive line. Florida State has, and they want Castellanos and their running backs to be going downhill on Miami for 4 quarters. I mean, I think whoever does that better is going to have a good chance.
I don't think they. I mean, we'll talk about Florida State at the end of the. I don't think they can. To me, if Notre Dame couldn't do it, I just don't think they can, because I actually think Florida's line doesn't get enough credit. I think they got a solid offensive line. I think their defense. I mean, before our game, they only let 2 touchdowns. Other teams scored 2. So I think, I mean, to me, the big argument you see from Florida State fans on Twitter, and Twitter doesn't make any of the decisions. They don't play on the field, but Miami beat teams that aren't ranked or whatever. But I actually think Notre Dame would beat Florida State right now. And I think Florida has a good shot of beating Florida State right now. I mean, that's my hot takes. You can call them hot, but I don't think they're really hot. I just think it's factual. So,
by the way, I just heard a hot take a little while ago. Somebody posted this on X, and there's, a big Florida State outlet who I think is the top Florida State news source, warchant.com. And they do, a bunch of their podcasts and stuff. And they were taking calls from listeners. And somebody sent me this clip where a caller on Warchant was like, guys, I think Virginia is going to be a tougher game than Miami. Tell me I'm wrong. And the host didn't tell him he was wrong. Like, the host agreed.
Lord.
They think Virginia is going to be a tougher game than the Miami Hurricanes. That's the sort of rhetoric and delusion that's coming out of Tallahassee right now. They are talking themselves into the Virginia Cavaliers being a tougher game than Miami.
It's fine though. Hey, go for it, because you have never seen a defensive line or offensive line like this yet. And actually, we got a good question from JD for you. What do you love most? Do you love the offensive line over the defensive line, or vice versa? Which one's your favorite right now? They're both great. Let's be honest. They're both great.
Yeah.
But which one has you more excited right now?
If I have to pick one, I'm going to pick the defensive line based on the fact that Ruben Hurricane Bain should be a legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate right now. Like he should be. Like I know he's not going to win it because defensive guys just never do, except for
unless they play two ways.
Yeah, unless they play two ways. So let's start using him at fullback or something. Right? If you have to give him a couple carries.
I would love
in the red zone. Give him a couple carries for
touchdowns.
Can you imagine,
Donno, hold on. Yeah. Can you imagine we beating Florida State so bad they put Ruben Bain in the backfield on the one and just run? Oh, please, Mario, do that. Please.
And Bain would love that. So,
oh my God, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so I think based on the way he's playing, he's the top graded player in the entire country on PFF 4 games in. And I feel kind of bad for Akeem Mesidor because Bain is playing so well that Mesidor, like if he didn't have Bain for a teammate, if he was playing anywhere else, we would be talking, people would be talking about him. Like if he played for Alabama right now, people would be trying to say Mesidor is the best defensive lineman in the country. Like he's playing so well, the two of them. And then, Marquise Lightfoot is stepping up, David Blay and Ahmad Moten at defensive tackle. So I'm going to say the D-line.
Marquise Lightfoot, I'm loving. He still looks a little light, but the dude is so fast. When he flushed the Lagway out of the pocket and tackled him on the sideline, oh my, that closing speed, even in a Notre Dame game you saw, it's pretty amazing. Lightfoot is a dude right there.
Yeah, Lightfoot is a dude, and Armando Blunt has also had some good moments so far this year, and I think we're going to see, we're still have 8 regular season games left to play, and who knows what else. So we're going to see a lot more of Armando Blunt and some of these other guys. But yeah, I mean, I love the offense and defensive line almost equally. I just give the edge to the D-line because Ruben Bain is playing like almost historically well. And it's not just the sacks because teams are trying to scheme him out of getting sacks, but it's the constant pressure. He's putting more pressure on opposing quarterbacks than any other defensive lineman or defensive player in the country is right now.
So there's an adjustment. There's an adjustment I see they need to make. You're closer to the program than I am. What is happening with the offensive line that they're jumping off sides? It's happened in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Are the other teams mimicking calls? Explain that for us, for the people that don't know.
I mean, as best I can, Mario Cristobal said after the Florida game that Florida's defensive line was stemming, and that's when you shift in a way to try to induce a false start. And I guess that's probably credit to Florida because it's legal. Cristobal noted, like it's not like you're faking injuries or doing something bending the rules. Like it's completely legal. But I thought they did a really good job of it. And I think that, I mean, to me, the fact that it happened multiple times this past week makes me think that's going to be a big point of emphasis for James Brockermeyer, the center, and the rest of the offensive line. I would assume they're going to devote like a lot of extra time in practice to make sure that they're more prepared for that because it's a copycat sport, right? I mean, Florida State's going to see what Florida did. They're going to try to mimic it. Obviously, Miami's going to work on it extra. So that's definitely an adjustment that needs to be made. I think part of it is just the attitude and getting amped up, which, is something you're going to have to be more mindful of it because Miami's first 4 games so far this year have all been at home. So if you're getting amped up and you're committing procedural penalties, you would imagine your next game is going to be, the loudest road environment you're going to see this year in Tallahassee. You've got to be really ready for that. So that's definitely an adjustment that needs to be made. I think overall, like what Miami's done a better job of in terms of penalties is really cutting down on the personal fouls. Not having as many defensive pass interference and cutting out also the unsportsmanlike stuff, which is really what kills you when you give the other team 15 free yards for something that didn't even have to do with the play. Like, you never want that. Miami's been good with that stuff in terms of penalties, but it's been the procedural penalties. And I think I was just talking about this, Michael, on Locked On Canes, like why, the reasons why Miami didn't, blow out Florida even more than they did.
Yeah.
Outside of what they couldn't control, the Marty Brown touchdown that was taken off. A lot of times when Miami was in Florida territory, they were close to punching in touchdowns. Drives got derailed by procedural penalties, which either forced the long field goals or maybe forced, punts at the end of it. So I think that's a big adjustment they have to make.
As far as, we'll talk about it, FSU. It is their first road challenge, big challenge. How do you see it as of now? Like, we know, like, players can get hurt from now till then. How do you see that game playing out as of today, which nobody's going to hold you to?
Obviously, I see a Miami win because I'd be foolish to pick against this team with how good they've looked. I'm going to go. I went very non-conservative for my Florida pick, and I had 40. Yeah,
but your conservative pick was not that far off if you go by point spread. Like, because you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think for this one, I'm gonna go somewhere in the neighborhood of like I'm gonna say 34-27 Miami, maybe 34-23. So I'm kind of working this out in my head as we talk about this, because I think what we're going to see early on in the game, Florida State is going to have some success on the ground. But here's one thing that I see happening, and obviously all within the rules. I'm not advocating, injuring anybody or anything like that. But football is a violent game, and Thomas Castellanos, he puts his body on the line. Like the way he runs, the way he plays physical, he puts his body on the line, kind of the way like Haynes King does at Georgia Tech. And I think Castellanos is going to run really, really hard. Miami's going to hit him really hard. And I think he's just going to get a little bit worn down as the game goes on. And I think Miami's defensive line is going to wear down FSU's O-line, and vice versa. Miami's O-line can wear out their D-line. So I see Florida State putting up some points probably in the 20s. And I think it's going to be mid-third quarter on where you start to see Miami, because I think Miami's the most physical team in the country. And I think that's going to take its toll on Florida State. And you obviously, if you force Castellanos into enough third and long situations as possible, try to make him beat you with his arm. I think they'll have some success, Florida State, early, but I think Miami's going to get separation late.
Well, Donno, I disagree. I think this game is going to be an absolute blowout. I think Miami.
Let's go.
I think FSU is a fraud. I think they played whack schools that aren't great. I think they are not, because this is what I love about them playing Kent State and that other school they played before. This is the first time they're really going to get punched in the mouth by a great team. And a lot of people don't know how to, like, that's going to be their first, like, whoa, I've never felt this pressure. I've never seen people like Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain. I've never been on the field with athletes like this. How do we stop these guys? It's going to be an overreaction because they can't stop the pass rush because they've never dealt with that with Kent State and all these small schools they played.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, to me, 21 points, the lowest they'll win by, but I can see 28 points. It's not because FSU, I feel, will lose in the ACC 2 to 3 games. I don't believe in FSU because I don't believe in Tommy, their quarterback. I think he's had a great games where he can rush, but Miami's going to stop the run just like they did with USF. Then the dude's going to have to throw. And then when that happens, lights out, game over, everybody go home. To me, FSU will be leaving the stadium by the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Oh.
That's how bad this game is going to get. And I'm not a homer because I've been very truthful and honest.
Yeah, you have.
Last year, I was all over our defense and like very, very vocal about it. But there is no team in the ACC this year or in the country Let's talk about in the country that has a defensive line and offensive line like Miami, and Florida State fans can talk all they want, but until your athletes are on the field with this type of level of athletes, where you might have 2 to 3 players in the first round now off of Miami.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure. Yeah.
So I mean,
Bain, Maui Noah for sure, first rounders.
Who knows where Carson
Beck has a chance. You know,
I think Akeem Mesidor, if he keeps playing, he's going to lower his stock, maybe second or third round.
Yeah.
You know, and let me tell you something. Torrey is when he hits somebody, they feel it. They feel it. And Wesley Bissain is playing well. Chase Smith is playing well. I mean, Heatherman. I love you, Heatherman. I mean, this dude has totally transformed the defense. So, at the Florida game, I said Miami was going to win by 21. They won by 19. I didn't think that game was going to be close.
Yeah.
But I think this one is going to be – I think Miami always takes it game by game, but we know they can't say it. But they want to really stick their foot on Florida State's neck and just make a point, just like they did with USF. Everybody's talking about them. All right, let's put the ball down. Let's go. So I see this being a blowout. I see this being an absolute blowout. Just to throw it out there, Donno, at the beginning of the year, we gave our predictions on the record of the team. Now we know how good this team is. Where's your total record at? Like just for the 12 games. Where you at?
All right. So I'm going 12-0 regular season now. And the reason why I got there was, before the season started, I was at 10-2, and my logic for that was, I thought Miami would split the Notre Dame versus Florida games. Obviously, we've come out now 2-0 in those, 4-0 so far, so that's already exceeded my expectation. And then the other part of it was, so I had Miami losing one of those games. And then, like I told you and I told everybody, I thought they're going to slip up somewhere and they're going to lose a game that they're favored to win, just because that's been the identity of this team for so long. But to your point earlier, why we feel the identity has changed, I see this team now with their physicality and with their attitude being able to take care of business in these games. So I am so bullish right now, and I'm not proclaiming national championship or anything, because I still kind of feel like Ohio State is probably the best team in the country. Jeremiah Smith is just an ultimate mismatch for anybody. I wish he was on our side and not theirs. So I'm not like national championship bullish yet, but I am 12-0 regular season bullish. And I got there, of course, because of what Miami's done with the games that they've won so far, and with me trusting that the identity has changed.
Let me just put this out there. When Miami makes it to the playoffs, it could be a total revenge tour. Beat Georgia Tech in the ACC championship, play Oregon or Georgia the first round. Can you imagine the hype playing Georgia the first round? Carson Beck, old team.
Oh, man.
Then you play Oregon, and then you get payback on Ohio State, and I hope it goes exactly like that.
Yeah.
That would be the ultimate schedule for Miami in the playoffs. And I think they know cinema. They know how to make great television. They want Miami to play Georgia, Oregon, and Ohio State if they keep winning, because that's just great television, and that's great storylines.
And I'm not going to put it past the college football playoff committee to manipulate things to make that happen. I mean, as if there's no shenanigans going on there. They're going to do whatever's best for TV.
100, and that's cinema. That is cinema. All right, Alex Donno, Locked on Canes. You got anything else you're promoting, sir?
Just my shows. Thank you for having me. Just literally before I hopped on here, put out a new episode of Locked on Canes with the truth teller, Bruce Warner. So go check that out. Locked on Canes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I also co-host Locked on ACC with Kenton Gibbs. We have a fun time there. And just Mike, thank you so much for having me. Everybody knows this. You do a tremendous job.
Thank you.
You're
man.
Hilarious. And by the way, I got a text from my sister a week or two ago, because she saw you on my show, and she's like, "Oh, hey, look, your buddy is on what is it? That show, is it Cake? Like, is it
Oh,
Cake?
yeah,
Like,
on Netflix.
You were on that? Yeah. So my sister, she watches that with her son, my nephew. They're like, hey, that's from Locked on Canes fame and comments on Canes.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, I'm excited for you. You're crushing it, and keep doing your thing. And man, we got this week off, but they're going to get ready for Florida State, and I just can't wait. I'll be in South Korea watching that game. I got to steal a signal or something. So I got to figure that out. If any Cane fans know how I can get this game in Seoul, Korea, let me know. It'll be 4:30 in the morning or like 5:30 in the morning, but I'm there. I'm going to be pumped up wearing Canes gear. All right, Donno, have a great day, okay?
Thank you, Michael. Go
It's
Canes.
all about you.